In 3 minutes, Donald Trump's confident swagger and happy grin disappeared when Jimmy calmly dropped a bombshell about his own daughter, Ivanka, sending the entire studio into stunned silence. The room was already hot. The lights seemed to buzz with anticipation. The band started playing their upbeat theme, but tonight the claps came fast and with an edge, half cheer, half skepticism. Jimmy stepped into the spotlight with a smile and said, "Good evening, everybody." The crowd roared back. Something about the noise felt off, too sharp and too loud. Jimmy paced slowly across the stage, soaking it in, said, "Wow, big night tonight. We've got the President of the United States here." Some people cheered, while others booed loudly. Jimmy grinned wider, said, Yeah, settle down. He's the president all. Let's give him a welcome, right?" The applause came harder this time, still divided and tense. The announcer's voice boomed through the studio, "Please welcome the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump." The room erupted, with some people jumping to their feet and screaming while others folded their arms tightly. Trump appeared slow and confident, like he owned the place, and waved like a celebrity king. For a second, he looked untouchable. Jimmy walked toward him. They exchanged a firm handshake, both smiling. The audience noticed the tension between them. Trump sat down, adjusting his jacket. Jimmy settled behind the desk. The band faded out. The lights narrowed, making the room feel smaller and heavier. Everybody sensed that this was not going to be an interview. Jimmy leaned back slightly, said, "Mr. President, welcome to the show." Trump nodded proudly, said, "Great to be here, Jimmy. Tremendous crowd, by the way." Cheers erupted from one side of the audience. Jimmy chuckled lightly, said, "Yeah, they definitely showed up tonight." Then Jimmy's tone, he said, "So let's jump right in." The crowd quieted immediately. Trump crossed one leg over the other, looking relaxed and comfortable. Jimmy asked, "How's the White House treating you these days? Busy schedule?" Trump said, "Busy, Jimmy, nonstop, tremendous energy, best people, economy. We're making America greater every day." Big applause came from the loyalists. Jimmy nodded slowly, said, "Sounds exhausting. You ever get a night off? Watch TV, maybe?" Trump said, "I don't need nights off. I'm always winning. You should try it sometime." The crowd reacted instantly. Trump pushed harder, saying, "You know, Jimmy, I watch your show sometimes when I can stomach it." Uneasy laughter filled the room. Jimmy raised an eyebrow, said, "Appreciate the viewership." Trump leaned closer, said, "But let me tell you something. You call yourself a host. You're like a lonely guy begging strangers for laughs because nobody laughs at home anymore." The studio. A real silence fell over the room. Somebody near the front whispered, "Jesus." Trump leaned back, satisfied. Jimmy didn't react. Instead, he let the silence grow, making it worse. The audience shifted nervously, waiting for fireworks. Jimmy only looked at Trump calmly and said, "Okay, let's talk about real life for a second." The energy changed instantly. It felt personal. Jimmy folded his hands together, asked, "Outside the studio, people are struggling. Groceries are expensive, rents crushing families, parents are skipping doctor visits because they can't afford prescriptions. What's your plan to help those people feel like things are actually improving?" Trump's smile faded slightly. He said, "Jimmy, there are no problems in this country, none. We've done a job." Huge cheers erupted again. A USA chant started from the back. The other side of the audience stayed quiet, watching closely. Jimmy kept his voice steady, said, "Families still feel pressure, though." Trump cut in immediately, saying, "They have reassurance. Jobs are back, wages are up, everybody's winning." Jimmy replied softly, "But they don't feel like they're winning." That line landed harder than yelling would have. Trump straightened in his chair and cracks started to show in his confidence. Jimmy nodded toward the screen behind them, said, "Actually, we asked viewers today whether they're under more financial stress this year than last year." The screen lit up, showing 72% yes. A murmur spread through the crowd, and Trump's jaw tightened. He said, "Polls? Come on, polls are fake, always rigged." Jimmy stayed calm, said, "But these are real people." Then he pulled out a memo. The audience leaned forward. Jimmy read slowly. "Persistent inflation pressures continue impacting middle-class households. Recommend messaging to counter public perception of hardship." Gasps filled the room and phones lifted everywhere. Trump's face changed immediately. He shouted, "That's fake." He half stood from his chair. "Total forgery. You made that up." The room erupted with cheers and boos filling the air. Through all of it, Jimmy stayed calm. Then Jimmy changed topics, saying, "You know what, Mr. President? Speaking of family, how's Ivanka doing these days?" Trump relaxed instantly. A warm smile spread across his face. He said, "She's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Smart, beautiful, strong, incredible mother." The crowd softened too. Jimmy's next question was brutal. He said, "Your daughter Ivanka?" A pause, then "Piece of ass." The studio. No screams or laughter filled the room. Horrifying silence fell over the audience. People looked confused for half a second, like their brains refused to process what they'd heard. Then the shock. Gasps exploded across the audience. Somebody dropped their phone. Trump's smile vanished instantly. His eyes widened with fury. He shot out of his chair saying, "What did you just say? How dare you talk about my daughter like that?" The crowd erupted into chaos with some cheering and others booing violently. Jimmy never raised his voice saying, "I didn't say it. That was you." The room froze again. Trump stared at him. Jimmy said, "You said it years ago. Radio interview." Trump pointed furiously saying, "That's a lie. Sick, twisted. You don't attack someone's family." Jimmy tilted his head slightly, said, "We actually have the audio." The audience. Phones flew into the air. The screen behind them flickered on, showing a 1990s radio interview. The room held its breath as a scratchy radio voice played. "Ivanka's growing up fast, huh? Quite a piece of ass." Laughter filled the clip, and then Trump's unmistakable voice said, "Yeah, if she wasn't my daughter, maybe I'd be dating her." The clip. Silence swallowed the room whole. Then the reaction hit like a bomb, with groans and shouts filling the air. Trump exploded instantly, saying, "Out of context. People joke differently then." The audience wasn't reacting the same way anymore. The balance had shifted. Jimmy stayed calm, saying, "And there's more." The next clip appeared, showing a 2006 television interview. Trump sat beside Ivanka, smiling and laughing, and then said the line again. "If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her." Laughter on the clip was awkward now. Inside the studio, nobody laughed. The disgust was immediate, loud, and raw. A woman stood up shouting, "That's your daughter." Security rushed toward her. Trump slammed his fist down again, saying, "This is a setup." Sweat glistened on his forehead now. His swagger was gone. Jimmy's voice remained quiet, saying, "It's your voice, your words, record." Then the screen went black again. New text appeared. Leaked audio, aid, verified source. A woman's voice filled the studio saying, "I was in the room times when inappropriate comments about Ivanka were made. Staff were told to laugh it off and never repeat them publicly." Trump looked stunned, actually stunned, and said, "Who is this? She's lying." His voice sounded weaker now. The audience noticed. Everybody noticed. The confidence that filled the room earlier was disappearing fast. Trump started pacing shoes, clicking hard across the stage. He said, "This is AI, deep fakes." Some supporters cheered desperately, saying, "News." It sounded thinner now, less certain. Jimmy nodded slowly, saying, "AI is scary. These clips are decades old." Then another twist came. We asked a media analyst to review everything. The screen. Dr. Elena Ramirez appeared live. She said, "No signs of manipulation. The archival footage is authentic. Metadata aligns. Audio spectrograms confirm originality." Trump stared silently, jaw. Muttered, "She's biased." The room felt different now, like everybody sensed the collapse happening in real time. Jimmy pulled out another document, a staffer statement, sworn testimony. He read aloud slowly. Trump stopped pacing, dead still. The audience quieted too, because suddenly this didn't feel like comedy anymore. It felt like an unraveling. Trump looked toward the crowd, searching for support. Some supporters still clapped. Others looked uncomfortable or confused. Then came the moment nobody expected. Trump's shoulders dropped slightly, a movement easy to miss but devastating once you saw it. He said quietly, "You planned this. You wanted to humiliate me." Jimmy answered softly, "I didn't create the tapes." Silence filled the room. Silence. Trump looked around the studio, the lights, the audience, the cameras. Suddenly, the man who walked in like a king looked very alone. He whispered, "You win tonight. This isn't over." He turned slowly toward the exit, snapped again, spinning back around, voice loud and wild. He shouted, "I won't sit here and take these lies. This is a witch hunt. Fake clips, fake witnesses, rigged television." He pointed at Jimmy furiously, saying, "You're done, mark my words." Then he stormed off stage. The side door slammed hard, the microphones caught the echo. Bang! The empty chair remained under the spotlight. For one long second, nobody moved. Then absolute chaos exploded, with half the audience cheering and half booing. People shouted over each other and phones recorded everything. The band was completely frozen. Jimmy stayed still behind the desk, taking it all in. Slowly he stood, walked toward center stage, and raised one hand. The room quieted enough. He said deadpan, "Well, I guess when the evidence gets too real, AI suddenly becomes very convenient." Huge laughter erupted. Laughter, tense laughter, the kind that comes after surviving something. Jimmy looked toward the chair and said quietly, "That seat's still there, so are the questions." The crowd quieted again. Then the side door cracked open. Trump appeared one last time, face red, eyes blazing. He shouted, "This isn't over. The truth's coming out." Jimmy didn't hesitate, lifting one sheet of paper. He said, "Before you go, 12 former staffers just signed a statement confirming the pattern of comments." The audience gasped again. Trump froze, mouth opening slightly. No comeback, no slogan, no attack, just silence. Slowly, he stepped backward and disappeared behind the door, this time for good. The studio erupted one time. Jimmy looked at the chair again, long pause, and then said, "Sometimes accountability looks exactly like this." Another pause, a seat and questions nobody can outrun anymore. The audience rose to its feet, standing ovation, loud and endless. The lights dimmed slowly. Music finally returned. Nobody was paying attention to the band. Everybody kept staring at that chair glowing alone under the spotlight, like evidence, like a ghost. Backstage that night, Jimmy sat alone in his dressing room scrolling through his phone. The clips were already everywhere, millions of views trending worldwide. Then his phone buzzed. A text from a producer, a leak from Ivanka's team. Jimmy frowned, opened it, and read an email. She intends to distance herself from the comments and fallout. Jimmy stared at the message silently. No smile, no celebration, exhaustion. Because suddenly the story felt darker, not politics anymore, family, fracture damage spreading outward in every direction. Outside the studio, the internet exploded into meltdown. Kimmel, Trump, how our chair and how our words matter. Every platform flooded instantly. Reaction videos, think pieces, memes, angry debates, late-night hosts rewriting monologues in Time news networks cutting into coverage, pundits screaming over each other. And buried underneath all the chaos, something quieter started spreading. Rumors, more leaks coming, witnesses, more recordings. Journalists promising investigations, former insiders hinting they were finally ready to talk. Because the real reason that night became unforgettable wasn't the confrontation. It wasn't the clips. It was watching somebody realize, live on camera, that words spoken casually years ago had survived. Waiting, aging quietly in the dark until the moment they returned. When they finally did, they hit harder than anyone imagined. Not Trump, not Jimmy, not the millions watching. Because once those words escaped into the world, they stopped belonging to the past. And by the time the studio lights faded completely to black, one thing had become terrifyingly clear. Nobody walked away untouched. Not the audience, not the country, not the family. At the center of it all, the haunting had only begun.